Grinders, welcome to RotoGrinders Today. I'm Jordan Cooper, aka Blender at BlenderHD. If you want to follow me on Twitter, it's Wednesday, December 6th. We'll be taking a first look at the Week 14 NFL slate on DraftKings and FanDuel. So hit that thumbs up button, smash the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell to know when we go live. Got tons of stuff today. We got some NHL today, some NBA. We got everything going on, but I'm joined by TJ from the cold, barren wilderness of Saskatchewan, which is it's not the wilderness, but you're going to be flying to it. You're actually flying to a real city today.
Yeah, basically as soon as the show is over, I'm catching an Uber and I'm headed to the airport to go to Toronto, staying there tonight, and then going to be producing the Pick Six show live tonight from either a hotel room or my sister's condo, depending if the keys get here before I have to leave in a couple hours. And then tomorrow morning, I'm going to be interviewing the main cast from the upcoming Percy Jackson and the Olympians TV show on Disney Plus, and then flying back home to get back to produce the pre-lock show tomorrow night.
That's a busy guy. So you got DFS lineups and movie stars.
Yeah,
maybe
exactly.
ask them. What do you think they're advised? How do you think their DFS lineups look like?
Well, the ones that I'm actually interviewing are all like tweens, and so I don't think that I hope that they're not putting any in because I'm interviewing. Have you seen the movie The Adam Project?
No, I've never even heard of it.
No, okay. It's a movie with Ryan Reynolds, and he goes back in time and talks to like a younger version of himself, and this kid was the younger version of himself in the upcoming series. So that's what I'm talking about.
So basically, you're going to Toronto to hang out with 15-year-olds.
Yeah, I guess so.
Is that that's not a good way to put it?
With lots of supervision from their parents and Disney.
and the press, the PR people, and
yeah,
and right. You're not just hanging out. You're not hanging out with 15-year-olds. You're hanging out with 15-year-old millionaire
movie
actors.
Stars. Yes, right. Yes.
And their entourages, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I was a teacher, so I'm used to it.
Okay. Let's I put in some little entertaining conversation before having to talk about this slate. We got 11 games. I mean, that's the highlight, but they insist that your main slates, if there's good games, we're not going to put them on we're going to put the good games on Mondays and Sundays and Thursday, maybe not Thursday, but boy, I mean, there's one game on the two, I guess, that have over a 45 total. Like I'm looking at the first look, which you can get rotogrinders.com/NFL. This is a free article with the notos and all the charts and everything like that. But just the overview, we got the Bills and the Chiefs, 47.5. Seahawks and the 49ers, 46.5, but it's mostly on the 49ers side. Then after that, it's like, dude, I thought the Jets-Falcons game was like the stone worst. The total of the Jaguars-Browns game is 30.5. 30.5. The implied team totals for Cleveland, 16, Jacksonville, 13. The Texans-Jets, 33.5. The Panthers at the Saints in the Dome, 37.5. Right? Even Falcons play in a Dome, right? That's under 40, 39.5. I mean, is it just going to be
30.5 totals?
Is it going to be one of those places where you're playing the Bills-Chiefs game and like good luck if you pick anything else?
That's the thing, though, right? Is like both of these teams are kind of historically difficult to stack up. Like if you do the Josh Allen and Diggs, you can, but that's super expensive and you don't have much salary to do anything else. And especially if like Dawson Knox is back this week, all of a sudden that maybe mixes things up for Kincaid a little bit. He might not get as many targets. Gabe Davis might get you 25, might get you -1. It's so hard to know with him. And then obviously on the Kansas City side of things, it's the same thing. You have one guy, you have Kelsey with Mahomes. That's super expensive to do. And then anybody else, maybe Rashee Rice, but every single Patrick Mahomes stack will be Travis Kelce and Rashee Rice, and anything else is going to be so wildly difficult to predict. So you got the highest total on the board by far. I guess the Seattle's 49ers game is close, with just no clear path of like, this is exactly what I would like to do.
Someone in the chat, Michael Townsend asks, says that that you're living the life. Which is the side gig? Interviewing actors and movie reviews or DFS? I can I guess that the answer is the side gig is the movie stuff.
So financially, because we're just starting up, the side gig is definitely the movie stuff. But in terms of what takes more time, where I have more responsibilities, it's definitely with Agents of Fandom, just because I'm the head of the team. And so we're only 2 years in, still trying to start up and get to a point where we can be a full-on business. But so from a day-to-day standpoint, which do I invest more time in? I would say DFS is the side gig, but from a monetary standpoint, Agents of Fandom is definitely the side gig.
Right, because I mean, you're not going to go and interview an actor and then win $33,000.
Yeah, exactly.
Right,
exactly.
It's not going to happen.
I've made more in the last 2 weeks than I did in an entire year of teaching with playing DFS. So it's like we're a long way away from Agents of Fandom being that.
Okay, let's take a look at lineup HQ. Let's go like position by position. What should we be looking at this week? Just as a very, very basic. I mean, this is essentially first. I'm kind of first looking at the slate myself. Let's take a look at some of the running backs. I think talking point this week is going to be around Zach Moss again, but he's now up to 5,900. Indianapolis at Cincinnati. It's not like Indy has that high of a team total, 20.5, but in comparison to a lot of teams on the slate, 20.5 is in the upper tier, right? We're getting to that point. We saw last week, I know he only scored 7.7 fantasy points, but like he could have easily scored 22. Like he got all the time. I mean, he got all the work that you thought he was going to get, he got. And all the red zone work that you thought he was going to get, he got, just not efficiently. At 5,900, I mean, yeah, he's not 4,600 like last week. Are people going to just be like, oh, well, he failed last week, I'm not going to play? I mean, projections would say that 5,900 is still too cheap for Zach Moss in a favorite spot against the Browning-led Bengals. Are you willing to go? I mean, to me, I want to play. To me, on this slate, it feels like I want to play the same running backs I did on this past Sunday. I want to play Christian McCaffrey. I want to play Zach Moss. Like, is that going to change this week at all?
No, I don't think so. Like, unfortunately, I think the field has just become a lot smarter in the last couple of years. So the whole recency bias of, he killed me last week, I don't want to play him again, that doesn't exist as much as it did before. Sure, I'm sure it still does for a lot of the general public, but especially when you get into higher dollar stuff, that doesn't really exist anymore. Now, I don't think Zach Moss will necessarily be the same mega chalk as he was last week. Like, I think in smaller dollar contests, he was like 65% owned. In the 4K Millie Maker, he was 86% owned or something like that. So I don't think we're going to see the same craziness, because it is easier to pivot off of him this week, because he's not 4,600, he's 59. So there are other options. But having said that, I think like he's still the first player you're plugging into cash games this week. As long as you can find a way to get different somewhere else, he's still the first player you're plugging into tournaments too.
But how about the 49ers? I mean, the 49ers have a decent, I mean, they have the highest team total, I believe. Right, 28.5, because they're a 10.5 point favorite over the Seahawks. I mean, can you really go? I mean, it feels like this is the week where if I play 12 GPP lineups, I'll have a 49er in every one of my lineups, whether it be McCaffrey or Ayuk or Samuel or something like that. I don't know what's Brock Purdy's price now. Brock Purdy's 6,500. He was 6,100 last week and chalk. They only raised him $400. I know we'll talk a little bit about Justin Fields and Lamar Jackson, But I don't know. It just it seems like it's one of the. It feels like to me like they have the highest implied team total. Why don't I just plug in Purdy, McCaffrey, and Debo, and then just like, well, the 49ers are probably going to put up at least 4 touchdowns. So good luck running me down with stacks of like teams that have like 16.5 point totals. I mean, is it that? I mean, that's how I look at it right now. And obviously on Friday, I'll talk about GPP strategy with Squirrel Patrol. But as of right now, it just seems like who's stopping the 49ers?
Especially with that game being later, it's just so nice to have that flexibility in your lineups. I would love to make some kind of rule that it's like I will play one of McCaffrey, Ayuk, or Debo in every single lineup and try to make it so that it's about 40% Debo, 40%, maybe 50% Debo, 30% McCaffrey, 20% Ayuk, something like that. Maybe 35 McCaffrey, 15 Ayuk.
You could throw in make sure you can throw in Kittle in there also.
Yeah, throw in Kittle too. I may save Kittle though for like Purdy stacks, but he has gone down in price, which is nicer. He is cheaper than he had been, and so 5,900 is starting to get more reasonable for him. But I probably would only play him with Purdy. But you never know. Like I don't hate a contrarian lineup where you play Justin Fields and then your 149er is George Kittle. I think that's a reasonable GPP strategy too. But I agree with you. I'd want at least 149er in my lineup. I think Deebo Samuel is probably my favorite non-quarterback on the slate. Like he's going to be priority 1 for me on this slate. I'll admit fully that there's a tiny amount of bias coming in there because I had 5 tickets in the $4,444 Millie Maker last week. I thought I was dead in the water. I was just like so disappointed. And then I had Deebo Samuel on 2 teams, one with a Purdy stack, one on my Tua stack. And because he absolutely smashed it, I had 2 teams min cash, so it ended up being about a 14K win. So Deebo is in my very, very good books right now. Speaking of not letting recency bias come into play when you're a good player. But Deebo is probably my favorite play on the week. Safran has the highest total, and he absolutely smashes zone defense. Seattle plays one of the highest rates of zone defense in the NFL. I think it's going to be Deebo week again.
Well, we have like Purdy, he's 6,500, 28.5 implied team total. We got Lamar Jackson, right? 7,700, 24 implied team total. But of course, like Lamar Jackson is the best quarterback that doesn't score any fantasy points because he doesn't get in the end zone enough. I mean, recently at least. And then Justin Fields, I mean, the team total is 18.75, and the Bears aren't good. I know that Fields and Jackson both have, rushing floors. How come it just feels like to me that do I want to play a chalky Justin Fields? I mean, I'm not sure how owned Lamar Jackson's going to be. But in general, chalky Justin Fields with as a home underdog with under a 20 implied team total, it just feels like why aren't I just playing Purdy for cheaper?
In GPPs, I think you totally can. Optimally, I think Justin Fields is going to be the guy you have to go with this week. Because like they were talking about this a little bit. One of the nice things about shout out to our guy Steve, not here this week, and so just hoping everything's going really well with him, giving him our thoughts while he's away. But one of the nice things for me that has been producing all the shows while he's gone is I get to watch all of the shows right now. I'm tuning into all of our content. And
you
so
weren't doing that before?
I'm catching as much as I can, but as I mentioned before, with Agents of Fandom playing lots of lineups, it's tough. It's tough. It's for what it's worth. I think as much content. I'm always the give us as much content as possible kind of guy, so that whenever I'm free, I can have something to watch. But just getting to see absolutely everything. The Prime Points show, they were talking about how Detroit is kind of like the best possible matchup for rushing quarterbacks. They are just give up the highest rate of rush attempts, rush yards to any rushing quarterbacks. And so this is just a unbelievable spot for Fields. I don't think you got to be full stacking with him, but like Fields, DJ Moore, and Deebo Samuel is like my favorite way to start a lineup this week.
Well, I mean, that's going to be a favorite way of a lot of people. I mean, that he does. I mean, currently in our Wednesday projections, our initial projections, Fields projects salary adjusted value as the best quarterback on the slate. But I'm always wary. Like, I like efficiency. I like, I want to find teams. I feel at least more secure playing guys from teams that actually are going to score touchdowns, right? GBP, you can do whatever you want, but I'm talking about like in cash games and stuff like that, or chalk pieces. Like Jake Browning's 5,200 and Brandon Smith in chat is Mixon a recency bias play. I don't think so. Are people going to play Joe Mixon? People hate clicking on that guy.
I think people might play Joe Mixon.
Mixon is, dude. Mixon's in the same game as Moss, and people don't even like play. People don't like playing Mixon, and they definitely don't like playing two running backs of opposite teams in the same game. From a GPP perspective, I think Mixon is fine, but
they haven't like updated much yet, and I haven't looked at too much of them, but I can almost guarantee that Mixon is going to absolutely pop in the blitz projections this week. Actually nowhere near as high as I expected, actually, but Indy plays at like the fastest pace in football, and so they just get so many more plays off than everybody else. I do I agree, nobody really likes clicking Mixon, but I think what we're seeing now is just positive regression to the mean of he was good at getting such a crazy amount of volume early in the year. And yeah, he's not as fast as he used to be, but when a running back gets that much volume, they usually score points, and he just hadn't been falling into the end zone. Now he is falling into the end zone. So really, I think that's all the production has been. He's not doing anything different. The team's not doing anything different. He's just getting that touchdown variance going his way now. I don't think he's going to be, I really thought when I just switched to the blitz quick, I really thought he was going to be higher projected than that, just because usually all players against Indy are projected high there because you get more plays in those games than any others. So I don't think he's going to be chalky, but I do think he's viable.
I think Rachaad White will end up being more chalky than him at 6,800 because Tampa Bay at Atlanta. I mean, it's not that they have a great team total, but Rachaad White, one could make the argument, TJ, that Rachaad White has the only running back that has a better opportunity share in the NFL is Christian McCaffrey. Like Rachaad White plays like 90% of the snaps and catches the balls out of the backfield and still also gets 15 plus carries. Like he'll touch the ball a good 22, 23 times, and he's not getting replaced by anyone. But other than the fact of the downside is that he's Rachaad White and he's not good.
Yeah, that's the thing right now, and he's starting to get up there in price too. For like in a vacuum, I like over the course of the season, I would say that's definitely the case. But I think if you look at it over the course of this week, yeah, McCaffrey is obviously first, but I think in terms of opportunity, White would still be behind Kyren Williams and Zach Moss as well. And so I don't think I'm going to get so much White this week. That's some chalk I'm going to look to get underweight on. Obviously, these early projected ownerships, they're going to change so much throughout the week. Like there's Charbonnet has zero, Mixon has zero.
Like they can't even go by this. Like,
exactly.
It's not going to be 0%. These are all
exactly.
I'm looking at the fantasy points. I'm not looking. The ownership doesn't matter in these columns to me.
And so I agree. He's probably going to be somewhat chalky. But for me, I would rather go down either all the way to Moss to the mid tier to Bijan or Montgomery, or up to Kyren Williams, who I hope is going to be low owned in a dip because the matchup is really difficult. And I don't give a damn about the matchup if he's going to touch the ball 30 times.
Yeah, Kyren Williams at 7,300. People are going to look at this and go, the Rams have a 16.5 point total on the road and Baltimore supposedly has a good defense. I'm putting that in air quotes. They're not a bad defense, but there's not something that you should be avoiding.
The only team I would literally consider avoiding right now is the 49ers, because since they have made those trades, acquiring Sweat, acquiring Young, like they've been like their defense has been stupid. Like it has been so wildly dominant against every team they've faced.
Let's take a look at wide receiver as a first look. So you mentioned before Rashee Rice, 5,400. We have him projecting well. He's finally getting a decently sized target share with the Chiefs, but remember, it's the Chiefs. The new week could come, and next thing you know, some other guy has a 30% target share. So I think it's a little bit, Rashee Rice's target share is a little bit more sticky, but I think his projection tends to be a little bit more fragile than others. We have Elijah Moore, who came up in price. With Joe Flacco-led Browns, I'm not all that excited about that. I mean, to me, I view the top plays on the slate to be like Pittman, Olave, Amon-Ra. I mean, we don't have a Tyreek Hill. We have Jamar Chase at 7,600. His stock goes down with Browning as quarterback, but we saw in this last game that
Browning
he's the number one
feeding
option.
him. And Browning looked pretty damn good. Obviously, that can change on a week-to-week basis with a young quarterback, but he definitely showed that it's not like we want to just scratch out these Bengals players because he's there.
Right. I mean, and especially if Chase is getting all these first targets, if they're designing an offense so that Browning could just quickly get the ball to Jamar Chase. I mean, maybe he's not we always think of Jamar Chase in the Burrow-led offense with Higgins there and Boyd there, as he does two things. He either gets the ball 2 yards, right? They do those wide receiver type of screens with him, or he's catching 45-yard passes. So a lot of times that his range of outcomes tends to be wide. Or sometimes he has games where he's 5 for 50 and nothing. And then there's games where he's 12 for 190 and 3 touchdowns, and you need to have him. I feel as if the Bengals offense now is more, I view Jamar Chase more like Keenan Allen. They're using him as we're going to get you 8-yard routes just so Browning could just find your read, slant route, get you the ball, get some yards after the catch, and let's move the ball and let's get Mixon involved and stuff like that to help out the quarterback because he's not Joe Burrow. So Chase doesn't project poorly, but on this slate, I think more people are going to be playing guys like Amon-Ra St. Brown and Michael Pittman, and less so on Jamar Chase. And especially Pittman's on the Colts. I mean, what better way to play Zach Moss in a lineup than play him as the run back in a Browning Chase type of combination? Do you think it's spoiled that the last game because it wasn't on the main slate? That it's Browning ain't that bad. The Bengals aren't that bad. Do you think that ownership is going to come with it? Because I don't want it to. So if people are yeah, maybe I'll play Browning, Chase, Zach Moss. Yeah, I want that to be under the radar. And I'm not sure if it will be. Because projection-wise, it's not like Chase projects got to plug him in range. I mean, Keenan Allen projects better than him. Amon-Ra St. Brown projects better than him. Olave projects better than him. And Pittman projects better than him. People just use those guys.
I think he's going to be played. I don't think he's going to be chalk necessarily. I don't think he's going to be coming in at 12% owned, anything like that. But I don't think he's going to be totally overlooked. I think he's probably going to be in the 5 to 7% range, which I think is still more than playable in GPPs. I think the way I'd want to go about that would be play Chase with him, maybe Tanner Hudson, because he's a nice, cheap tight end as well. And then run it back with Zach Moss and Michael Pittman, because those two players have been seeing so much of the volume right now. Downs obviously is still always a good GPP play, but Alec Pierce saw more snaps, more routes, and more targets than him last week. Could just be a random outlier fluke, could be a trend. We don't know yet, but we know Michael Pittman's going to be seeing double-digit targets, and we know Zach Moss is going to be on the field for 85+% of snaps. So a Browning, Chase, Hudson stack, running it back with Pittman and Moss, I think is a very great GPP play.
And obviously we got in that range, a little bit cheaper, the Ayuk, Samuel. We talked about the 49ers before. What other wide receivers stand out to you on a first look that you're looking at target? Because I mean, some of these team totals. I mean, I feel like this is I feel like when Friday comes around and I do the show with Squirrel Patrol, that we'll just look at each other and go like, you can just cross off like half the games. Like, and even like you can play one-off wide receivers in some of these games. And I say that, and then I look at these games and I go, I'm not even sure if I could do that. Like, I mean, it seems like there are certain games where, like, if I don't play anyone, I don't know if I'm missing anything. So is there anything from a wide receiver standpoint? These Seattle guys are projecting halfway decently, but I feel like I wouldn't want to play those guys outside of like a lineup that has 49ers in them.
Yeah, which will be, for what it's worth, most of our lineups, right? But like Tyler Lockett is very, very cheap. The biggest thing that stands out for me, especially here in the mid-range, there are a couple cheapies I really want to touch on, but especially in the mid-range, for basically the first time all season, it's very affordable. Well, hold on, let me backtrack. There's one team on the slate. We talk about all the low totals. There's one team in particular on this slate that, to me, looks like two that look like the clear and obvious choices to exceed these team totals. Exceed the team totals that Vegas has them for right now. One is the Houston Texans over 19 points. I think they can easily get into the 20s, especially against the New York Jets. I actually already bet them -5.5 to win this game as well. But the other one, and the one I feel even more so confidently about this, is the LA Rams. The LA Rams with a 16.5 team total. Yeah, 16.5 team total against Baltimore. It's like you said, Baltimore is a solid defense, but I don't think they're as dominant as they are being priced.
Do you really want to play Cooper Kupp?
For the very first time all year, we can afford to stack Stafford with Kupp and Nakua together. We can play all three of them. It's affordable because they're 7-4 and 7-1, as opposed to 8-8 and 8-5 like they were a couple weeks ago. Especially with the value that we have at running back. We can play both of these guys together, run it back with a Keaton Mitchell on the other side of things, a nice cheap running back this week. And if you want to make your stack bigger, which I always like to do, like that's how I've had my biggest scores, is I don't stack, unless it's Justin Fields, maybe Lamar Jackson, I don't stack one receiver with a quarterback. I very rarely stop at 2. I'm almost always going 3. Because unless it's a running quarterback, because like I want them to throw 5 touchdowns and I want to get first in that GPP with a ceiling game. And so I'm almost always trying to pair him with at least 3 pass catchers as long as the price allows me to, as long as they're cheap. And so we're probably not going to have Tyler Higbee this week. And so you can play a $2,500 Bryson Hopkins, pair him with Nakua and Kupp, play all 3 of them because Stafford's not going to run, right? If Stafford's winning a GPP, it's because he throws 4 or 5 touchdowns. You're not getting a rushing game from Stafford. So you plug in those 3 pass catchers, you play Matt Stafford, and you play Keaton Mitchell. Hold on, where's Stafford here? Did I accidentally X him out? Why can't I find Matt Stafford?
No, Stafford's, that's how far down he is, because Stafford never wins you anything.
Stafford has won me many things. And then you put Keaton Mitchell in there.
When's the last time that Stafford put up 30 fantasy points? When's the last time he's done that? 30.
I don't know, but I'll take 23 last week and 24 the week before. I'll take those scores for his price. That has been winning GPPs this year.
I guess, yeah, you do have a point there that sometimes you don't need that. You don't need 30 or 40. No, good luck on the Rams. I don't think Friday's going to come around and me talking about playing Stafford stuff. I've tried, TJ. I've gone down that route.
Oh, a cheap defense. I got $6,500 remaining per player on a team that has Nakua and Kupp. That looks pretty good to me.
It's a pain and suffering. I'm letting you know. The Rams are going to. The thing is that TJ, the Rams are going to do well. The Rams are going to put up 4 touchdowns. It's just that Stafford only has 1 of them, and Cooper Kupp has 2 touchdowns, but one of them is a rushing touchdown, right? So like no matter how you stacked it, you look at your lineups and you don't see any flame emojis, and you're like, okay, what was the purpose of this? And then on the other side of the game, Lamar Jackson has 47 points because he ran the ball 140 yards with 3 touchdowns, and it's like, why? All I had to do is play Lamar.
Guess what?
No
I'll have a Lamar Jackson team that has Kyron Williams as the run back too. I'll have one with Keaton Mitchell in case he's the one that gets all the touchdowns with my Ram stack, and I'll have a Lamar team with Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, and Isaiah Likely, and I'll run it back with Kyron Mitchell. That's how I'll have those tournament lineups built. But I want to shout out Jerry Matt 88 in the chat, because although I don't like Higgins or Godwin this week, he did mention one of my favorite GPP receivers on the entire slate, and that is Drake London at $4,600 going up against Tampa Bay, one of the biggest pass funnel defenses in all of football. London is so cheap, and even though he doesn't really have anybody throwing him the ball, he can break off 50-yard touchdowns on any play. So London's one of my favorite GPP plays on the slate.
Drake, you're doing it. You're creating the entire pain and suffering lineup. Like Drake London, at some point, TJ, at some point, you know the show on CNBC called American Greed? You ever heard of that show?
No, I haven't.
They show like all like business scammers and stuff like that. You're like, oh, they set up a hedge fund, but it really was his own personal piggy bank and blah blah. That's Drake London. Like Drake London is going to be, when he retires, there's going to be an American Greed episode of how much money he stole from people that from projections and DFS players.
Don't click his name. Don't click his name. How many games has Drake London had with less than 10 points this year?
That's the scale that we're on.
At 4,600, I'm fine with that floor. How many games has he had with less than 10 points?
I don't know. None? I don't know. You can tell me none.
Only 3. And he's had a 25-point game. He's had only 3 games this entire season with less than 7 targets. Drake London is a great play at $4,600.
I'm just telling you. I'm telling you how it's going to turn out. I'm just warning you. It's a premonition. I've done this before. You're walking my shoes. I'm older than you. I know how this works. You're getting all excited for Drake London. You're getting excited for your Ram stacks. You're getting excited. You're getting excited for, why not play a chalk Chiefs receiver and then watch Justin Watson catch 2 touchdowns? Why don't we play anyone on the Ravens? No matter who you play on the Ravens, other person scores, and the people that score on the Ravens aren't even like the 7th option on the team. It's like someone that you never even heard of that scored the touchdown, and you go, I never even thought about playing the second fullback, and they're the one that has 2 touchdowns. Like, I'm telling you, this is how it's going to play out. I've done this
Drake
before.
London is going to be in the Millie Maker lineup this week because of your mega mush that you're putting on him. Remember on yesterday's show where you called Tim a pessimist? Who's the pessimist now? You're putting all these on the Ravens, on Drake London, on the Rams, on everybody.
I've done it before. It's going to be Justin Fields is going to be 27% owned, and he's going to put up 74 points. I'm telling you,
that's going to be my main lineup. That's going to be my main lineup. I mean,
it's going
to
be whatever,
small field, high dollar lineup is going to be Justin Fields, DJ Moore, and Deebo Samuel. But I am going to put in a lot smaller and that'll be it'll just be Moore and Fields, right, on that team. But then on my larger field stuff, I'll do one Fields team that also has, we'll make sure it has Kmet in there too, and we'll run it back with somebody like David Montgomery and Amon-Ra St. Brown. But then I'll do a lot of smaller field teams that have full stacks of off the board teams like the Rams, Lamar with 2 or 3 pass catchers. But Drake London is going to be a feature of those smaller field stuff. And I may even play him in my big one because 4,600 is just way too cheap for Drake London. I think he's been in the Millie Maker lineup twice this year.
You'll see he's officially. I'm not saying you can't play him. I think I'm not making fun of that. He shouldn't be 4,600. I think he should be 4,600. I think he's efficiently priced, and his range of
5,500.
His range of outcomes is wider than you think. I think that's more of the point that I'm using this as a humorous way.
All receivers are though, except for 6 of them.
Yeah, and that's why I play those 6. I just play those 6. Why not just play those guys?
If if Elijah Moore is going to be 25% owned and Drake London is going to be
he's not. Don't worry about that.
He's probably going to be. He saw like the biggest air yard share of anybody in football this last week with Flacco at quarterback. So as long as Flacco is still starting, he's going to project wonderfully and be the cash game cheap darling of the week. And so if he's going to project very highly, which I think he's going to, Drake London's the perfect high upside pivot off of him.
I'm telling you. Well, we're gonna have Justin Fields projected for like 18% ownership. And we're gonna have DJ Moore projected for only 12% ownership, and then you're gonna turn at 1 o'clock, 1:15, because DraftKings, it takes forever for them to the contest to work. You're gonna open up your app, and Justin Fields is gonna be 28% owned, and DJ Moore is gonna be like 30% owned because everyone's playing Justin Fields. And then the red zone, you're gonna barely get your sandwich ready to watch red zone, and DJ Moore is gonna catch a 72-yard touchdown from Justin Fields, and then that's the end of your day if you don't have him. I mean, like
that's music to my ears because I'm gonna have him.
Okay, so then you
my main in my main lineup. I'll run St. Brown, Debo, DJ Moore, and Drake London as my 4 receivers with Justin Fields, Zach Moss, a cheap defense, and we'll see who I use for my other running back and then my tight end.
If we bet on this. How many, if we put the over under at like 12 points or something like that, who scores more fantasy points, Drake London or giving 12 points to Drake? Like just Drake. Like how many fantasy points will Drake score? Do you think it'll be 12? Do you think London could outscore that by 12? I'm not sure. I'm not sure of that. I think Drake plus 12. Like, I think that's the -1. I think that's the bet you make.
I mean, considering London's projection is 11.5, yeah, that's pretty reasonable. But 11.5 still makes him the second best point per dollar receiver in that range behind Elijah Moore. And I want to embrace that large range of outcomes in tournaments because, yeah, he could throw up a dud, but look,
you're seeing Drake London on the I understand now, TJ, because you're looking at the blitz, and the blitz, like the blitz.
No, I'm looking at the RotoGrinders projection. It has London for 11.5 points, which is second to only Elijah Moore from point per dollar in that range.
Oh, okay, I'm looking at RGV, not point per dollar.
Still, for RGV, he's negative 0.
It's not very close. Look, I have it on the screen. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8.
Oh, I X'd out Smith and Jigma, so that's why. But no, I'm not comparing him to Chris Olave. I'm talking about and Michael Pittman. I'm talking about in the price range.
All these caveats in the price range.
It was clearly stated. If I need a cheap receiver and I don't want to play a 25% owned Curtis Samuel,
Elijah Moore. Okay,
Elijah Moore. Then I want to play Drake London in tournaments because I think he's a 20 plus fantasy point upside pivot at probably a quarter of the ownership.
Trust me, you think that the blitz will think the blitz has gone on prom dates with Drake London for years, right? Just constantly going on prom dates, maybe this is the time I'm going to get laid. Never happens. You're in the friend zone. It doesn't matter.
It does happen. He's won people $1 million this year.
Really?
A Desmond Ridder, Drake London stack won the Millie Maker this year.
You're right. There was one slice. So one time it happens. It happens one time. I don't think
if I get 18, 16, something like that for him, scores he's put up multiple times this year at $4,600, I'm happy.
So what you're going to Toronto, but you're still producing shows. So you're going to be doing all that stuff with the movie stars. And people aren't even going to notice that you're even gone because you're still coming out with tons of content this week, right?
Yeah. So I just yesterday I wrote a week 14 fantasy football quarterback rankings where, like, not including prices, I just give my top to bottom, everybody on the slate who I think will do the best. So I look at the RG projections. Be on the top of that? Not at the quarterback list, no. And Desmond Ridder's actually right near the bottom. But I got that one already out. And then, Devin's going to be handling like Grinders Live and Crunch Time for NBA for me today for producing. And then the RotoGrinders Today show tomorrow that you have for Thursday Night Football. Devin will be handling that in the morning as well. But then I'll be back by the evening, and I'll be doing the Pick Six show from Toronto tonight, producing from my laptop. So I won't be hopping in on shows, showing my face, just because I'll only have the AirPods. My mic, I'm not bringing my microphone with me, but I'll be behind the scenes and in chat and stuff.
Yeah, but you still have like Prize Pick stuff, and
so like today on Wednesday, it's my one day without any articles. But tomorrow I'll have NBA Prize Picks article, NFL Prize Picks article, and NFL Expert Survey.
Okay, so look out for that. And obviously the Expert Survey and a lot of the stuff that you produce is behind the paywall. Click on that link in the description. Get $10 off your first month of RotoGrinders Premium. I'll be on tomorrow. We'll be talking about the Thursday Night Football game. What garbage is on tomorrow? Patriots, Steelers.
30.5 total.
12. Patriots have a 12.5 implied team total.
We might get the lock button Jaylen Warren because it's kind of fun because we're probably going to be without Jaylen Warren. We'll be without Najee Harris and Ramondre Stevenson. So it's a super low total with a weird amount of value.
Okay, well, we'll take a look at that tomorrow. Hit that thumbs up button on your way out the door. Hit the subscribe button if you're new here. Hit the notification bell to always know when we go live, because I'm here for you. Monday through Friday, 11 o'clock Eastern, talking about all things you're thinking about in daily fantasy props and pick 'em on RotoGrinders Today.